Good morning, everyone. My name is Nicole Angtuaco. Also, a lot of you call me Nikki, so either way is fine. I've been coming to Watershed since April of 2016. I was just looking for a progressive and welcoming community, an affirming church, which is hard to find in the South. And so it very quickly became my church home. I church shopped for a while, and I kept coming back to Watershed, and so here we are, 6-something years later. I'm shaking like a leaf, guys. This is so nerve-wracking. Anyway, thank you for the encouragement. So here, let me just sit. That'll be better. Okay. All right. So anyway, I don't think I talked to anybody at this church for about 2 years. I did not say a word. I just sat in a corner by myself. But finally, Matt approached me at some point and suggested that my now husband and I get involved in the preface group. So we did, and we met a lot of amazing people and learned a lot. And I ended up doing a couple other blocks after that. And I'm currently part of a supper club with some other amazing ladies from this church. To say my life has changed significantly since I first began coming to Watershed is a huge understatement. My husband Jeff and I met in early 2016, shortly after I relocated to Charlotte from Portland, Oregon. I was actually dating somebody else at the time, but we became very good friends. And we spent a lot of time with a common group of friends that we met through Linny Boy Run Club. A lot of couples have been formed there, so if you are single and on the prowl, I highly recommend you check it out. I think at least 3 of the couples are now married, so there's something to be said for that. To make a long story short, Jeff and I finally became a couple in January 2017. I like to joke that he finally wore me down, but the reality is that I woke up one day and I realized that I actually deserved to be with a person who would love and support me unconditionally and would treat me the way I've always deserved to be treated. So before I get into what's saving me now, I want to give a shout out to him. I couldn't ask for a more committed partner in marriage, in parenting, and in life. Through all of the ups and downs in life, he is the one steadfast, steady, and present person. At the end of the day, I know it will never be me against the world because I'll always have him by my side. So, sorry, get a little emotional. A year after Jeff and I began dating, we got engaged and then married 10 months later in November of 2018 with about 240 of our closest friends and family. 6 months after that, we found out we were expecting our first baby, a baby boy, due in January 2020. Fast forward just over 2 years, and we added a baby girl to our family on 2/22/22. So we have an almost 5-month-old now. So shortly after our son was born, the pandemic came along and shut down the entire world. And not only was I in the thick of postpartum recovering physically from an emergency C-section after 48 hours of labor, and mentally experiencing a roller coaster of emotions that ranged from pure joy to bouts of uncontrollable sobbing. I remember one time I was in the bathroom and I started crying because I felt like the baby was just growing too fast. I was just lost my mind. How is this happening so quickly, So, there was a lot of that going on. And of course, then the pandemic comes along and I didn't have my usual outlets. And for those of you who don't know me, I'm a very social person. It was tragic for me to have everything shut down. So, pretty quickly, we started to do some outdoor gatherings with close friends, which allowed me to hold on to the tiny bit of sanity I had left. The camaraderie that we had with fellow parents was definitely paramount to our survival as first-time parents. And our friends and family members with kids do continue to provide so much of that needed support. But perhaps what I didn't expect was the support that would come from people without kids. I'll be the first to admit that prior to having children of my own, I wasn't exactly anybody's go-to person for childcare. I was living my best life. I was traveling practically every other weekend, and I was having dance parties in my living room until 3 o'clock in the morning, acting like I was 20 when I was actually 36. So anyway, what I initially found when I was pregnant, I was thrilled, but I also felt very alone, and I'm sure some people can relate to this. The whole journey of becoming a parent can be very isolating at times. From the first trimester when you're trying to keep your news a secret and just praying to make it to the second trimester, to the early days of motherhood, trying to figure out breastfeeding, which is the worst part of parenting in my mind, and learning how to function on 0 sleep. So, and I won't even get into the challenges of parenting a toddler. We're in the thick of that right now, and it's something. So anyway, as everyone always says, being a parent, as rewarding as it is, it's also the hardest thing I think you'll ever do. And it definitely requires an entire darn village. But little did I know that my childless villagers would actually be the most critical to my survival. So that brings me to what's saving me now. My nearest and dearest friends and family members who do not have children of their own but love my children as their own are the people saving me now. They are the people who will offer to entertain my busybody toddler or hold my sweet baby girl just so that this mama can get a much-needed break. As an Enneagram 2, I thrive on helping others, but I'm terrible at asking for help myself. But with these people, I don't even have to ask. They are a much-needed constant in my very chaotic life. I know when I bring the kids with me wherever we go, I won't have to go it alone. They love my kids, and my kids absolutely love them. So I have to start by mentioning my brother Michael, who's here today. Our toddler affectionately simply refers to him as Uncle, and even though our toddler has multiple uncles, we know who he's talking about when he says Uncle. He always looks for Uncle's red car to pull up outside and gets so excited to see him. Talk about the unicorn of uncles. He's only 29 and doesn't have kids of his own, but he's a better parent than most actual parents. I can't even begin to express how grateful I am that he made the move to Charlotte almost 2 years ago when Jack was only 6 months old. And since then, he's been our go-to babysitter, and he's by far our son's favorite playmate. He takes care of our kids with such ease and patience, way more patience than I have. My kids and the rest of his nieces and nephews are the luckiest kids on the earth to have an Uncle Michael, and we should all be so blessed to have an Uncle Michael. And then there's my friend Adrian. At the start of the pandemic, we were neighbors and quarantine buddies. We had many outdoor happy hours during those lonely and dark times. Having her just down the street single-handedly kept me from ending up in the loony bin. She has always been so quick to offer a hand when it comes to our kids. She's willing to chase the toddler around a brewery while I sit and enjoy a beer in peace. So she is proof that not all heroes wear capes. Ashley's another dear friend who's become family for us. We've known each other about 20 years now. We met in college at Ohio University. Life looked a lot different back then. But she made the move to Charlotte just over a year ago, and she is always suggesting kid-friendly activities for us to do, and she includes my kids in all of our plans. When I was recently running late to relieve a babysitter, she jumped in her car without hesitation and drove out to the burbs to watch my son until I could come home. She's just one of the most thoughtful and considerate people I know. As sarcastic as she actually is just a really good human being, and so I'm really grateful to have her in my kids' life and in my life, of course. And last but not least, I want to mention my wonderful friend Amy. I can actually thank COVID for how much our friendship has grown. We've known each other for about 6 years. She has worked at Kraft for many years. If any of you have been to Kraft, I love that place. So I've known her for a long time, and she also owns her own baking business, Sugar Queen. Check it out. Anyway, but we started hanging out when the pandemic started, and she very quickly became one of my best friends, and our friendship just continues to blossom. Amy is someone who has always wanted to be a mother herself, and maybe one day she will be. But for now, she loves on my babies as if they are their own. She actually asks to take them off my hands. She's like, "Can I hold your baby?" I'm like, "Yes, please, thank you." So while there's certainly a lot of other people in our support system, these are people who are truly saving me right now. They show up constantly for both my kids and me. And what I've learned is there's truly nothing sweeter in the world than having friends who love your babies. So that's it. But now I'd like to invite you all to take a moment to reflect on what's saving you right now.